Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Needville Global Methodist Church channel. This is our weekly Bible study. I know I've been gone for a couple of weeks, just kind of taking a rest from the weekly Bible study and getting everything together for another number of series. So I do encourage you, use the comment section down below and let me know if there's anything that you would like to hear from me about, any a topic that you might want to listen to, or scriptures that maybe you've been reading in your own spare time that you got questions about, or even just questions about life in general. Maybe you're going through a tough time right now and you'd like to know how a Christian should operate in those particular parameters and that kind of thing. So if you have anything, please use that comment section below. Talk to me through that and let me know what you would like to see talked about and taught here on our channel. If you haven't done so already, I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you have all of the newest videos. They'll pop up, they'll notify you, let you know that there's new content for you to watch. And also hit the like button on the video. It helps to spread the video out to as many people as possible, because we always want the word of God to get out to as many as possible through every platform that we utilize. So with that being said, I'm going to dive into today's lesson. If my voice starts to crack a little bit, it's because I'm still a little on the sick side. I've been dealing with flu-like symptoms for the past couple of days, but I think I'm finally past most of it. But if my voice cracks, it's because I'm still coughing up the garbage that is stuck right down here. But as I said, I'm finally getting over it. And today's lesson is a solo lesson. It's just one and done type things. But it's something that really has been hitting hard to me over the past couple of weeks. As I've listened to people not only within our own congregation, but also as I've watched on Facebook with some of the groups that I'm part of. I'm part of some clergy groups. I'm part of some just regular GMC groups, and also a couple of others where people have been utilizing, have been talking about things in their congregations and in their lives that, you know, it's really bothered me. And I wanted to bring up this one point. One of the greatest things that Jesus tells us, it comes from the Gospel of John, chapter 15. This is when Jesus tells us what his commandment is. 100%. He says, you want to be my disciple. And he says it numerous times throughout the Gospels, right? You know, you want to be my disciple, you'll obey my commandments, right? If you want to be my disciple, you'll love one another. If you want to be my disciple, you'll pick up your cross and follow me, right? There are a number of times when Jesus tells us exactly what it means to be his disciple, the way the world is going to view you, the way that he is going to view you, what you should be doing. But in this particular passage, it's the 15th chapter. I'm going to start in verse 12 and go through 17, because you know me, I don't like reading just one verse at a time. I want to read the whole passage, because it's important to not, pick and choose little bits and pieces. But in this, I'm going to highlight one particular part. So this is what Jesus says. He says, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And that's the piece that we're really going to focus on today. Then he goes on, he says, you are my friends if you do what I command you. If I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing, but I have called you friends because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, I chose you. And I appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. And I am giving you these commands so that you may love one another. Now, as I said, the whole passage is important because it informs each sentence, right? Each verse informs the other. But the one that I really wanted to focus on was verse 13. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And I focus on this because so many people, I think, get caught up in the literalness of this passage, of this verse. We start to think, okay, the best thing we can do is to literally die for our friends. But the fact is that most of us are never going to have that opportunity. We're never going to have that peace, that time where our life, our literal life, is demanded of us in order to save a friend, a family member, an enemy, whoever, right? We're not we're rarely ever going to be presented that time, right? That opportunity to showcase that kind of love. And in all fairness, the whole point is that if you are presented that, more than likely if you do take it, there's a significant chance, because you are giving up your life, that it's literally a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? Because as soon as you give up your life, you won't have a life. So so we can take one of two ways of thinking about this from Jesus. We can either take it the literal way, which says that yes, at some point in your life, you will have to give up your life. You will have to literally die for someone, which is partially true, right? We see that through Christ, who died so that we might live, right? That's certainly part of that passage. And there are certain times, when a parent needs to make a decision on whether or not they'll give up their livelihoods for their children, or so on and so forth. I mean, there are some, and I mean, go into Hollywood, you'll find plenty of movies that are about this kind of sacrifice, right? That there's some of the most powerful movies that you get to watch, or stories, or anything else. It's a powerful emotion to sit there and say that you would give up your life for your friend. But I think that we tend to go too literal for it. So many times we take that literal stance. Take, for example, the phrase where Jesus says, "Pick up your cross and follow me." That doesn't literally mean that you need to die on a cross. What it does mean is that you're going to have to give up. You're going to have to sacrifice in order to be his disciple. And you're going to have to sacrifice a lot to be his disciple. So when he says, no one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends, it's not just meaning, okay, the only time that you get to experience this, or the only time that anyone gets to see this, is when you literally lay down your life. Sometimes the laying down of your life really translates into the laying down of something that you want. One of I'll never forget, I was in a couple years back, I was in a church, and we were worshiping. We were trying to figure out how we were going to do our Christmas Eve service. And I know some of you may have heard me talk about this before, but eh, the Reverend Adam Hamilton and his church, one of the day when they were working about how they were going to do Christmas Eve, and he has a very, very large church, and they were thinking about, okay, on Christmas Eve, we have we have 6 different services. But the problem is that even 6 different services still wasn't enough to include everyone. There were most of those services were still standing room only. And Adam and the rest of his team sat there and said, well, what's the purpose of Christmas Eve service? Sure, it's to celebrate, Christmas, right? And what a Christmas Eve service is. But they also recognize the fact that one of the most powerful services in all of the Christian calendar was the Christmas Eve candlelight service. And they realized that because of its importance, because of the potency of that service, it was more important that visitors, that people that weren't accustomed to being in the church, should be allowed to have that premier station. And so what they decided to do was they decided to then have a Christmas Eve service. So a Christmas Eve service the day before Christmas Eve. And they encouraged and told all of their members that if you were a member of the church, that was the service that you should come to. so that the Christmas Eve service was almost exclusively visitors and non-members coming into the space. Now, can you imagine what that kind of sacrifice would be? How many people do you think around you, whether you're a member of our church in Needville or maybe you're a member of another church, how many times do you think that people in your church would willingly give up their most precious, their most favorite of services so that someone else could experience it? I can tell you through my ministry, I have gone through too many churches that they say the same thing. They're like, well, we want to change, but once you change that one thing, it's like, oh, but we didn't want to change that thing. I'll give up all of this stuff, but I won't give up this piece. This piece is too sacred to me. This piece is too important to me. I don't want to give that up. But Christ looks at us and says, no greater love than this. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. Now take that in conjunction with all of the other commands that Jesus gives to us. And in all fairness, all of them are very similar, right? They're all about loving others into a relationship with God. That was his whole purpose of coming, was to bring us into relationship with God. And Jesus says, look, no matter what you do, if you do it to bring someone into relationship with, that's all that matters. Give up the church service in order to take care of something in the church so that others that are visitors or non-members can experience the worship service. That's a sacrifice. That is a laying down of one's life, because that is a laying down of something that you consider to be sacred to you, something that's precious, something that's important. And what you're doing is you're turning to the other person and saying, you are more important than this. Do you see how important it is to me? And I give it up because you are far more important than it is. I love you that much. I want you to have that relationship that much that I'm willing to give up this important piece. So when you go into your life over the next week or so, I want you to remember Jesus's words. No greater love, no one has greater love than this, that one should lay down his life for a friend. And don't think about it as the idea of you need to put your head in front of a gun or anything like that. What I'm telling you is that all he's talking about is the fact that your job as a Christian, as a disciple of his, is to show those around you that you love them more than your own life, more than your own comfort, more than your own joy, more than your own anything, that you love them more than anything else in the world. And that your desire above all things is that they would have a relationship with their God the way that you have a relationship with yours. That is what it means when Jesus says, lay down your life for one another. It means put the other person above yourself. Love them and show it by giving up the things that you hold sacred so that they might come into the sacred through that sacrifice.